Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks again for coming by. We're going to have a great time painting this beautiful flower painting. We're painting into the light today. We're doing alla prima painting, which is just starting in one place and painting and just going through the painting, starting in one area and going through everything, not really worrying about too much, letting things dry in large washes. So this is a real fun painting to do. The alla prima method is a great method to use. A lot of great painters use the alla prima method and also the glazing technique, so we practice both here a lot on this channel, so you're learning both the alla prima and the glazing technique on a continual basis on my channel, so this way you have both skills, and this way at any time when you're painting your watercolors you're going to be able to employ both of those methods, either alla prima or glazing technique, to accomplish your paintings. That's my hopes, and I know many of you are already having a great time of it. I know this for a fact. Many of you send me your gorgeous, beautiful paintings, your finished paintings, and I salute everybody because there's some really phenomenal paintings coming into my email on a constant basis, and I tell you, a lot of people are really having a great time painting their watercolors and improving tremendously. So stick here on my channel. I just hope you'll subscribe below. On the right-hand side, you hit subscribe. You'll be plugged in here at my channel week after week, month after month, and year after year. I'm creating paintings for you on these tutorials so that you can benefit and learn lots of new information on watercolor. That's your main goal, is to get better at your watercolors, and I'm here to teach and show you to maximize your success. So let's get into this painting. You're going to have a great time with this one. Again, plenty of beautiful colors to use. We're going to use all the colors of the palette pretty much, and have a fun time of it. We take our time. I show you step by step everything you have to do as you go, and we even cover the pencil drawing right in the beginning. So right after this here, you'll see the pencil drawing and how we complete that, the contour drawing, and then we'll get right into the painting right after that. So have fun with this, enjoy it, and please leave your questions. If you have any questions whatsoever, please leave them in the comment section. Of course, if I don't know the answer, I'll try to look it up for you and do some research and get you an answer if I don't have the answer that you might need. Other than that, let's have some fun, enjoy, and we'll be right back. Hey, all right, we are cooking here. We're going. We just saw the finished painting. Please work from the finished painting. I happen to have a finished sketch, a finished contour drawing actually, of that painting that you just saw in the beginning of the video. And what I did is I had this in my studio. It was kind of to the side in a folder. I was looking through some folders, organizing a little bit, and I found this and I said, hey, let's paint this. But before I do paint this, let's just kind of practice up and talk about what I did to get this contour drawing in before we're going to paint. And this is Fabriano extra white rough paper, and I buy this by the full sheets, and then I just trim them down to like the sizes that I want. Usually I take a full sheet of paper. I think it's maybe like 22 by 36, and then I just trim it down maybe into quarters and make it 4 pieces, something like that. In any case, this is the pencil drawing. I know you can see it. I'm looking at my viewfinder here on my video camera, so you can see the pencil drawing somewhat. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of explain a little bit of what I did. So here, starting out, you would just, you're going to be working from my finished painting in the beginning of the video or at the end of the video, so either or. You can kind of watch the video full through, and then at the end, hit pause, and you can draw and paint from the finished painting. Or you can hit pause on this section right now, which might not be the greatest of... It's hard to kind of see the pencil drawing here. It's a little bit light. So I will go over this, though, with a darker pencil line. So maybe what we'll do is, this is printer paper I have. So I'm going to use printer paper over the top of my watercolor paper, my Fabriano paper. I already have my Fabriano extra white watercolor paper. It's rough, extra white Fabriano paper. And so I did my pencil sketch from a photograph. And I can't show the photograph. It's a copyright issue, so I don't want to get in trouble by getting putting on things that are already copyrighted information from other artists. So here I put my sheet of printer paper over top, which is a little bit it's somewhat transparent. You can kind of see through it, so I'm going to just do a trace over it. So basically the first thing I usually do is I'll just go with my outline to make sure I make sure I'm doing my rectangle. So this way we always want to know what area are we working in. Okay, so we have our rectangle and we say, all right, this is our area we're working in, this rectangle. Then this gives us some definite places that we can start making marks on our paper. You know, you might say, oh, halfway down the paper or a little below halfway is the windowsill. Well, then you have a little place, you know, you have your rectangle, you know, drawn on your paper, and you can say, okay, over here on the side, I'm just going to put a little dash or a dot. This might be my windowsill there. And then maybe over here, just a little bit off the right edge, is the side of my window over here. So I put a little dot or dash or a little marking here, maybe an arrow, whatever you want to do. And then maybe you can just put a really super light pencil line there. You can't see it really on this, but that's enough that I can get started. Maybe I want to I think one of the main things here for this painting to get it to really look good when you're doing your drawing is to kind of get the windowsill in. So let's do that. So all right, I'm going to start and I'm going to say, let me draw the top portion of my window first, just so I kind of get a feel for things. All right, so the window sash is here, and it comes down like so. Then we have the frames up here. So this is a frame, window frame over here, and then down here like so. Okay, and then there is a little bit of a, so that's the window. Okay, then here is the window sill. It's very minimal, but it's there, just so I have it. And then under the windowsill is the backsplash, where the countertop is. This is a kitchen. So there's your countertop. It's backsplash there. It's only small, 4 inches under the window. So that's kind of like your key things you're going to want to get into your drawing, your contour drawing, is you want to kind of build out your window, where your window is. And then your windowsill, where that bright light is in the painting, you'll notice. And then underneath is the shadowing, that's the backsplash. And then from there we have our tablecloth, and the tablecloth goes out, and then we have the edge of the table here. So, and then the tablecloth lines of the material has a really nice pattern. It's a large grid pattern that kind of makes a nice feel and a look to your watercolor. And there's some stripes going across. There's 2 stripes there, and then there's the front like that. So this is in shadow, so we just know that's shadow here, because this is the edge of the table, and then the tablecloth drapes over the top of the edge of the table right here. So this will all be in shadow here. And there's some more lines on that too, like so. All right, so that is the basic kind of like layout you'd want to sort of have solidified when you're starting your drawing. You know, before you even start really drawing everything into this into your rectangle, you would want to get like your window and your table kind of set up a little bit, so that you don't start out and you only have a small bit of window up here and then all table down here. It would really look awkward according to my painting that you see in the beginning of the video or the end of the video. Like I said, you can either pause on the beginning or the end of the video to work from that, which is the best. I think you should work from a finished painting, draw and paint from a finished painting. I think that's the best way to perfect your skills. But you can do things differently too, because I said I don't always have the perfect answer for everyone, because each person is uniquely different. Always remember that. As an artist, you're uniquely different. Everyone is not going to work the same way, see the things the same way that I see them. Everyone has different skills. You're bringing all different kind of skills to the table that I might not have, and conversely, I might have skills that you don't have. So we all bring our skills. Whatever you might have skills you don't even realize you have. You're bringing it to the table. So if you feel like you need to adjust or do things a little differently when you're doing your watercolor paintings, your art, your drawing, that's fine. Don't feel like you have to follow everything I say. Always just remember, try to stick to the main program of what I'm teaching here. If you like my channel and you like what I'm teaching, try to stick to what I'm showing you for the most part. But you always remember, you can do things and you can spin off on a few things here and there different if you feel it's going to help you and it's going to make things easier for you. That's all I say. I don't ever want to kind of pigeonhole myself or anyone else into doing something exactly the way I'm showing it, because I realize everyone's different. We all have our own, again, skills that we bring to the table. You might have tremendous drawing skills, but your painting skills aren't as good. So you're going to have an easier time doing the drawing. You don't need to really hear me tell you about pencil drawing so much. You already know how to do that. Or you might be great at painting, but you're not such, you don't have the drafting skills as much. So then you're going to be kind of keying in more on what I'm talking about on the drawing side of things. And then once you get to the painting, you're going to be breezing through everything, because it's not a problem. You're more familiar with the painting process. Does that make sense? I just want to make sure I kind of explain things the way I feel is going to be best for you, so that you can kind of gain the most information and the best success with your watercolors, your drawings, and your paintings. All right, so again, I wanted to just ensure that I have basically the layout in this painting is really like halfway is the window, and then the halfway point down here is the tablecloth, and the table, and there's some fruit and a vase and flowers. So let's start out now. We got our basic layout. So we've already drawn most of this painting. Let's continue. Let's maybe just start doing our flowers, so that I would just, when I'm drawing my vase and flowers, I would just basically, I am tracing a little bit here, but I really can't see through the paper all that great. But I do have a general idea. Let me sharpen my pencil. Let me do it away from the microphone so it doesn't make a lot of noise. Okay, so let's do a little drawing here. And so I'm just going to be doing my vase here and some flower shapes. Okay, I see some. So now I'm doing some flower shapes here. I'm trying to see what I'm. And these are kind of like beautiful wild flowers here. Some wild roses. They look like pink roses from my painting, so we'll go with that. Contour drawing is basically you start in one place and just start going like a trip through the painting. And as you go, you're just looking at your subject matter constantly, back and forth at your subject matter. So I'm looking at my drawing, I'm actually tracing a little bit here. But if you were working from my picture, you're just looking at my picture the whole time, and you're just sort of following through and looking at everything, and you're just kind of covering you're staying within this area here as you draw. You don't want to be going way out, far away from where you start. When you start your contour drawing, the basic simple process of contour drawing is all you do is you kind of stick close to wherever you start. And then as you're going through and doing your contour drawing, you're taking your time. You can rest and take a little break and make a little round dot and say, okay, well, now what am I doing? Okay, I'm going to do this leaf over here. Then you take another break and say, well, where am I going next? Well, I can see that this leaf is about the same length out here as the bottom of the rose. So then you say, all right, well, that's about that length. Then this one is about this length, about the same. And you do this. Whereas you wouldn't say, okay, I'm looking at this. I just did this leaf here. Now I'm going to go to the bottom of this rose here. You wouldn't go way out here and then do the rose, because you can kind of see as you're, again, sticking close to where you're working, you can gauge as you go the distances of everything. So this distance to the bottom of the rose here is approximately the same distance as this leaf form we just drew here. And then as we go up here, we see another small shape there, then here. And you just keep working things as you go through the drawing. And again, you wouldn't draw a giant rose like this, a huge flower like this, because you're already carefully going through. And if you feel like you need to, you know, as a runner jogs in place, if you ever seen a jogger that's jogging and they come up to a street where there's a light or a stop sign, they kind of jog in place. So you can take your pencil and just do a little circular motion and just kind of jog in place as you're going and thinking about where your next pencil line is going to go. Then when you get to the next destination point, then you can also hold that point, maybe, you know, just do a little circular motion. And the point is eventually you'll be able to kind of flow through your drawing, and it'll just be a intuitive type process for you. You won't really have to maybe pause as much and stop as much, but you will in the beginning if you're just, you know, kind of really getting used to the contour drawing method. You know, you kind of stop when you need to and just think about it and keep looking at your subject matter. So here again, I'm tracing a little bit, so let me see what we have here. Okay, so this is another flower here, and another one over here. Okay, and this is up here, and I think that's good. All right, so now let's move on down here. There's the vase. How far does the vase go down? To about here. Okay, and then we have maybe it's an apple here, so I'm just contour drawing. There's an apple there. Over here there might be an orange or a pear. Looks like a apple or an orange, or maybe a tomato. And there's some shadows here, because the light, we'll always draw our light insignia. So always remember, you want to know where the light's coming from. And you do this at the top of your painting so you know the light's coming from. Actually, you can adjust your light insignia. We're going to take a break in just a second. I'm covering a lot of stuff here. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So when you're doing your light, your light insignia, you can, if you want to kind of make it easier for yourself, if you make the light insignia more round like this and have only a small bit of the lamp, so we're pretending that our light source is a little lamp that we have as our insignia and our note for our painting. So if we have it like this, that means that the light is basically shining right at us. Whereas if we have the light like this, and maybe just a little bit like this, then the light's shining more straight down. Does that make sense? So if you see, so you just envision it. Practice drawing a lamp with a shade, with a light and a shade, and that's you can always use that for all time. When you're doing your artwork and you're figuring out where your light's coming from, you can always use that to kind of figure out where your light's coming from, the exact location for the most part, and then you do your insignia, and then you're really done. Then you already know, okay, a circle with just a tiny bit of lampshade means the light's coming directly at us, facing us, shining in our face. And then here, if we have this one, look at this. If the light is looking like the shade is a triangle, a large triangle, and just a tiny bit of oval with a little bit of light bulb, that means the light's coming straight down like so, like above us, straight up overhead. This here, again, is what we're looking at. This is our painting here, this one, and that's the light's coming straight through the window at us and throwing shadows, casting shadows down onto the table, like so. Just a tidbit of information. I hope you like that. That's a really helpful thing, because light is so important in your paintings. You really want to kind of always, in your drawings and your paintings, capture the feel of the light. The light's really important. That kind of gives it a three-dimensional look to your painting as you go. And so I know those of you might be complaining I'm talking too much or whatever, but I'm trying to give you as much information as I can. Some of you always love that I talk a lot and give you lots of information, so I guess I can't please everyone all the time. But we have a good time all the time here, as you know. We have a great time here on this channel, right? Do we not have a great time, everyone? Please say uh-huh if we have a great time. Uh-huh. All right. So we have a shadow here, and a shadow here, and a shadow. So that's just the basic essence of the drawing, okay? Now what we'll do is we'll come back after this and we'll start painting, and I'll just lift this up, and we'll start painting from the sketch, you know, from the drawing, contour drawing that I did. But you can kind of see this is the basics of it. And of course I have a few more things in here. There's a paintbrush. We just practiced one of these on our channel recently for the new beginners. For the extreme beginners, you can maybe paint this painting as well too, because you've already practiced some fruits. You've practiced a brush, you know. So then all you got to do is maybe practice up on a vase and some flowers, and you got it. You can start doing this painting actually and having a great time of it. So there you go. You got your paintbrush. We just practiced this in our Extreme Beginner series. So now we have our paintbrush there on the table, and we have another bit of fruit. Maybe this is an orange, and there's a shadow in front of the orange, and that's kind of shaded, but you wouldn't shade so much if you're doing a painting over the top of this. But if you're drawing this, yes, you would do some shading. But if you're doing a watercolor painting, you already know, all right, I'm just going to draw the shadow underneath the object, like so, like here, and like under the vase, and even underneath the paintbrush. Make a little indication you need to put a shadow under there, so you can kind of see how we're developing this, right? We're thinking of light and shadow with shade. We're doing our contour drawings like we're doing in our pencil sketches on our new Extreme Beginner series. So if you're just stopping by and you're working on the Extreme Beginners, hey, if you're an extreme beginner, you can still do this painting. You might want to practice up on a vase and some flowers, and maybe draw the window a few times, maybe sketch this out on some scrap paper first, but there's no reason why you can't do this painting as well and follow along with us, because in just a minute we're going to show you all the colors and how we're going to do this painting. This is more of an advanced painting, but again, even as you're an extreme beginner, you're already practicing your fruits and vegetables, and you're practicing brushes and pens. Maybe you want to put a little, you've practiced your tubes of paint. Maybe you put a couple tubes of paint in this painting here, like so. So it's up to you. But I want everyone to have a great time. Okay, so let's take a quick break. We've been drawing quite a bit of time here, already probably 20 minutes or half an hour. So let's take a break. This is the process of contour drawing before you start your watercolor painting. And then we'll come back in just a few minutes and we'll start our painting. What I'll do is, while I'm taking my break, I'm going to spritz my paint with a spritzer bottle so that gets a little moist. I keep my palette in a plastic bag in the refrigerator so that the paints stay moist and fresh. All right. We shall return in just a second. Okay, so we're going to start our painting now. So we're just looking again at our contour drawing, our pencil drawing. So this was a little darker drawing we did over the top of our, we did this on printer paper. And basically, I sort of traced just a little bit to get an idea of where things were. But this is the actual watercolor paper with the pencil drawing already on there. So we'll start out and just, again, I'm hoping you're going to work from the finished painting that I created. So either on the beginning of the video or at the very end, you'll see the finished painting as we wrap things up at the end of the video. Or again, on the beginning of the video, I always show the finished painting so you can kind of see what it looks like and be able to work from it if you like, or just to check it out, see if it's something you want to draw and paint. And this way you have an idea of what it's going to look like when we're all finished. So I'll just pour some water in here in my container, my water container, fresh clean water. Let me see what I have, a number 4 Da Vinci Maestro travel brush. This is a good brush for me. I like it. It's kind of just a smaller brush, but it kind of works for this type of composition. And we'll probably use another larger brush maybe when we're doing some of the more larger washes, but for the smaller shapes in this, we should be fine with this type of brush, a 4 or a number 5 round brush. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, so let's maybe we'll start out with some darks. So we're going to paint alla prima. Again, we talk about alla prima and glazing. This painting, we'll do alla prima, which means we're going to start just in one location and start working from there, preferably at the darkest darks of the painting, and preferably in more of the central location of the painting. If you're doing a glazing technique, a lot of times we do glazing technique here on my channel too as well. Glazing technique is more or less when you start out and you just do a light wash over the whole entire watercolor paper in composition, and then you go over with subsequent washes with darker tonal values. So basically here we're starting out with the darker tonal values, and we're not really doing glazings and letting them dry as we go. We're just painting as we go, and we really don't have to worry too much about drying things out. So when you do the glazing technique, obviously you're doing a light wash over the whole painting first, letting that dry 100%. Then you're going over with other washes on top, darker washes. Here we're starting out with the darker washes first, and we're not worrying about maybe doing large swaths of washes. We're just doing small areas at a time. So that's a real fun way to paint too as well. So I hope you'll try both the glazing technique and the alla prima technique. I use both. Probably more alla prima painting like this, but I do use glazing technique quite a bit too, and I want you to learn both. That's why I kind of do both on my channel, so you learn both techniques. This way you can interchange them as you go when you're doing your paintings. So let's try out some red, cadmium red. We're going to mix some, get some paints out on our palette. Cadmium red, raw umber. Let's go with some blue, cobalt blue. There's some Prussian blue, some French ultramarine blue over here. Some cerulean blue. So we're just getting out some colors here that I'm looking at. And there's some greens. So I'll put some green out here. Sap green, viridian green over here. A little bit of mixtures going. Have plenty of paints, you know, a number of paints out on the palette that you can see. So basically when you're doing this painting, you're going to look at my painting and say, well, what do I see in the first area that I'm going to start working in, which is the central location of the painting? What colors am I seeing? And those are the colors you put out onto your palette in small quantities, just so you have an idea. Okay, these are the colors I'm pretty much working with. And then you can work with these colors here, and you can even go straight into the colors in your palette. And this is a reason I always say if you can stick with the same palette over and over again. So once you get your, I think if you stick with, let's say if you stick with my palette, and if you even type in my name, Chris Petri, and you type in Chris Petri, my palette into YouTube, you'll see about 10 videos where I cover all my colors, my palettes. I use different palettes here and there for different situations. So you'll see all my palettes, all my colors, and my colors really don't change. I've been using the same colors for like 15 years now. And the reason it really is important to kind of stick with the same colors is you'll memorize them, and you'll really become you become very closely in tune with your paints and your colors, so that whenever you're working, you're not thinking too much about it. Does that make sense? Does that kind of, you know, you'll just kind of like driving a car. You're putting on the brakes, you're stepping on the gas, you're steering with your wheel, you know, you're shifting if you have if you have a car that has a gear shift, you know, you're looking in your mirrors, you're driving, and you really don't even, after a while, you don't even realize it. You're doing all those things at the same time, and you're carrying out those tasks successfully. And it's the same thing with your paints, your palette. If you're using the same colors all the time, eventually it becomes second nature, like driving. where you don't even have to think about it. You're already just looking at the colors. You're saying, oh yeah, that's a red, that's a cadmium red, that's a alizarin crimson red, this is a cobalt blue, this is a cerulean blue, this is a green. You'll know, and you'll have all your colors memorized. But if you keep changing colors all the time, that's going to be a problem because you won't memorize a particular palette. And what's fun about this palette is if you stick with this same palette, sure, you can always add in some colors. You add in a couple little extra wells here. You know, these are plastic pans here. You can add these into your palette, tape them down, and put different colors in there if you want to add a few every once in a while, different colors that you might see that you might like to try. But if you stick with your main colors all the time and you just work with those consistently, you'll have them all memorized. You'll have the names of the colors memorized. You'll have them actually memorized as far as the actual color of them, so that when you're looking at any painting, doesn't matter whose painting it is, you'll be able to just naturally match the colors perfectly as you go. So it's a real huge advantage if you can just stick with one palette of colors and stick with those and just use those all the time. And even though it kind of feels a little bit awkward to some of you, I know some of you don't like to be stuck with just one group of colors, but trust me, it really works. You just stick with those one group of colors. And again, you can always add some colors. You can always add a few colors here. I added some leaf green here. Maybe I added some sepia tone here. So once in a while I do add different colors to my palette, but if you stick with those same colors all the time, trust me, you really will benefit from it tremendously because you'll memorize them, and it'll be a lot easier to paint and match your colors when you're painting, whether it's you're painting from photographs or if you're outdoors painting from plein air in outdoor situations where you're trying to match colors. You'll be able to match them because you can your eyesight will be adjusted to those colors. So I didn't want to go off on too much of a tangent there, but really using the same palette all the time and just sticking with it, finding your palette, creating it, and saying, okay, this is the one I'm sticking with, and that's it. And then you just go from there and just stick with that same palette. Again, it might be a little bit awkward for some people, I realize, to stick with just one palette of colors. But again, it's really beneficial. I hope you will do that. But again, everyone's different, so a few of you are not going to want to do that. Fine, do what you have to do, okay? All right, let's keep going here. So let's go in. There's some darks here. So we're going to start out with our darks. Some greens. Then we're doing the vase. Some blue. Some warm and cool everywhere. Burnt sienna. And if you want to start working over into your other colors, there's some orange over here. This is maybe an orange. And don't forget, the light's coming from behind, so the object's going to have a little bit of light, rim lighting around the outer portions of the object, whatever it is. And then some blue here. So you can kind of work your colors out as you go. A little bit of purple there. Some blue. And I'm just trying to trying to I just go with the flow here. I'm looking at my colors. And that's all I do is I just keep looking back and forth at my subject matter. And we're going to do our little olive oil jar here. And there's some raw sienna over here. So maybe we'll put some raw sienna there. And then some more blue, purple. And some more blue, some shadow colors, some warm and cool again. Try to mix your warm and cools together. Blues, browns, reds. Try to sort of keep yourself always mixing colors, keeping things interesting looking, right? Wouldn't it be boring if you just painted with one color throughout the whole painting? That would look totally boring, so always try to continue to mix your colors. It's always a little opportunity to have some color mixing and different tonal values and colors and shadows. Okay. And if you see some darks that you need to put in, leave the lights and let them dry and come back later at a later time to do your darks. So if you need to do some dark accents, like some little bits of design work on your bottles, there might be some like small painted designs on your bottles or your cups or mugs or whatever you're painting. Hold off on that, let the painting completely dry as you're going, like keep working, but if you do see some darks you have to put in over the top of these medium tonal values, you know, you can kind of see these are medium tonal values here. They're not really too dark, but they're not, you know, white paper, of course. So they're in between, they're the medium tonal values. If you have some designs here that have darker colors on these bottles or your decanters or whatever you have you're painting, even an apple, if you see some really dark colors, maybe it's a good opportunity to let the paper dry. So move to a different section and paint somewhere else and let that dry pretty much 100%. Then come back and add in some of the details. So what I'm saying is when you're painting alla prima, keep in mind you can't just keep painting over wet paper. You have to let that paper dry as you're going and come back later and get those darker darks in there. So we'll do that. We'll let this go for now. But we are going to go over with some darker darks. And if you're looking at the finished painting, you'll notice that there are some darker darks over here on this bottle and this olive oil container, glass jar. But you'll notice I'm not going to do that now because the paper's still damp after I just did this wash. So you want to make sure you're always keeping a track of how dry your washes are. So if you paint a wash onto a portion like of your painting, an object, let that dry before you go back in and do a darker dark. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope you'll follow that rule of thumb. That's always a good rule of thumb. Let things dry and come back later. Don't try to keep painting everything at one time, even though you're painting all at one time. So I'm going to go with some yellow here. We have some yellow. Okay, we'll do some yellow here for this spice jar. It will continue on. Let's get some more darks in here. There's some sap green, cerulean blue. We're going to add some darks here. Some cobalt blue. Mix in a little yellow there. And we want to keep that bright light there on the bottom of the windowsill. The windowsill needs to be that bright light. And we have some burnt umber here. Okay, and then this is maybe a yellow apple. So let's do this yellow apple, and again, get the main color on there. It's a yellow apple, green yellow apple. There's some shadow up top here. Get that shadow in as you go. Some green, darker green shadow like that. And then you have some blue for shadowing. This is going to be your shadow with some mixtures of colors, like so. That's your shadow of your green apple. Okay, very simple. Like so. If you find it's too dark, you can always lift up a little bit with some tissue. And then let's do an orange over here. I think I see an orange here. Let's do an orange. Have fun with this. Doesn't have to be a perfect orange. You can add some burnt sienna to it. Maybe I'll add some raw umber to it here to make it a little darker. Then maybe some more orange, like that. Okay. Now, with that, we're going to add again some purple and some blue. Purple up there. Some blue here. Let's get that in there. Shadow. Some purple. There we go. And you can always infuse in some colors while it's still wet, like that. Okay, there we go. So now we have a couple pieces of fruit, and if you're an extreme beginner, you could always do this exercise on a separate piece of paper, just doing a couple of pieces of fruit, an orange and an apple, and try to do it this way with a shadow underneath it. Instead of doing this whole scene, this whole painting, you can break it down into smaller parts and say, hey, you know what, I'm an extreme beginner. I'm not going to try to tackle a giant painting like this. Let me try a couple parts of the painting. So you just want to create a couple pieces of fruit together like this. So you might want to just break this painting down and make a smaller section. It's real simple. You know, you just take it and you section it off and say, okay, I'm just going to do these two pieces of fruit like that. And you just do the two pieces of fruit, an apple and an orange with the shadows, and there you go. It's up to you. You might just want to keep on working on your drawing. Maybe you're holding off on doing some watercolor painting for right now. That's fine too. Just an idea if you need to. have a couple more things to work on. If you want to keep working and you have not too much information, then you can start doing something like that. All right, so now let's keep going here. Let's try some more shadows for this vase here. So I will do some shadowing on this vase here, like so, and there will be some more shadows like so. Then you can go in and do some splashing for the flowers with a few mystery shadows like that, just to kind of have some mystery shadows in your painting where the flowers are. A couple splashes just to loosen things up a little bit. Maybe there's some okay. So you can see we're making some really good progress. We already have lots of color, lots of medium tonal values. We haven't got, there's some darks here, so you can see there's some really darks here and there, a little bit there. So we have put in some really impactful darker darks, but a lot of this is medium tonal values. And again, we can always come back in and do some darker darks if we need to, but we're going to continue on. Let's continue working up in this area, but let's take a break. We've been working 15 or 20 minutes now, so it's always good to take a break when we've already gotten some really good color and paint onto our paper. So this is a perfect time when we feel good. We've gotten some really good progress here. We've worked half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, give or take, and then you have some good colors, some good washes on here, mostly medium tonal values. We've left white paper too, so we're leaving white paper. Remember, you don't want to cover up all your white paper. You want to use your white paper as an advantage to create more impactful light in your painting. For watercolors, you want to leave some white paper in there. Not every time, but a lot of paintings, you're going to want to leave some white paper in there. And so that's what we're doing here. We left some white paper in the vase. We left white paper here on the tablecloth, on the table area. And we left some white paint along the sill here, the window sill. So we're going to see how that appears once we do some negative shape painting, which is another great technique. We'll just cover that in a few minutes when we come back, doing some negative shape painting, which is an incredible tool, an incredible method and technique you'll use in watercolor to create more impactful, exciting light looks in your painting. So we'll do that next, but we have to take a break. And remember, take some breaks. Hey, if you can work and you don't need breaks, that's fine. Like I said, everyone's different. Do what you think is best, but I always say it's better to take breaks. Get some rest, relax yourself, sit down if you're standing up, or if you're working sitting down, maybe you stand up and you stretch a little bit and get a cup of coffee or tea or a glass of water, soda, whatever you like to drink, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we'll come back in just a second, but we're really have a good start now. So we're kind of setting the key for the painting. Lots of good color, beautiful colors, lots of mixes of colors. We're not just sticking with one or two colors and the next thing you know, it just looks very bland and boring looking. We have lots of mixes of colors and we put them all out first here in our palette. Okay, so just a little review as we kind of back off away from our palette and our painting and take a break, and when we come back, we'll start back up again, okay? Okay, we are getting back from a break, so breaks are great because, hey, you can come back, step up to your painting, look at it and say, okay, what am I seeing here? How is it looking? What do I do next? Did I miss anything? Do I need to change anything? That's the perfect time when you're taking your breaks. You've rested a little bit, 10, 15 minutes maybe. You come back, you'll have a clearer mind, and you can check things out and kind of assess what you're looking at and maybe your game plan for the next 15 or 20 minutes that you're going to paint. So this is exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm walking up and I'm saying, all right, awesome. We've got some good colors. Medium tonal values are really coming along nicely. We have a few darks here and there, little punctuations of darks throughout. We're going to have to add in some darks at the end of the painting, or we could do them now, but let's wait till the final portions of the painting. We'll go in and do a little bit of fine-tuning with some darks here and there. But I think right now we're in good shape, so let's continue to work on our bouquet of flowers here in our vase. And we have some other things here at the bottom of the painting that we can let be for now. Let's continue working upwards into the flowers. I think that's a really good place to work, so let's do that. Let's get some more sap green out here, and some raw umber, and a little bit of viridian. So we're going to get some greens going here, and it's always nice to get some of that gold in there with your greens to warm up the green colors. It always looks good to mix your gold and green colors like raw sienna, yellow ochre. You mix those in with your greens, and that really looks good. Even some burnt siennas, raw umbers. And we'll take some blue, cobalt blue, purple we already have here, mixed up here on the top. Alright, so let's continue on here. Let's do some greens. We're going to start doing some so we're having some green leaves here going in. And some green and gold. And a little bit of blue, warm and cool everywhere, so there's maybe a little bit of blue in there for some shadows. Maybe we start working in some alizarin crimson. So since there's alizarin crimson in the flowers, let me add a little bit to this. A little bit there. So if I add alizarin crimson into the flowers, I want to add it in some areas over here too, just a little bit maybe. And let's continue to work here in these flower areas where we have some more leaf forms. Leave some white paper in the leave some white paper in the bouquet of flowers. Okay, so you have that there, a couple splashes. There we go. And we get a little bit of that golden color again. Okay, now we're going to do some of the rose colors here. It's a very, very light rose, pink roses here. So we add a little bit of that pink rose color, maybe a little bit of cadmium yellow too. Some cadmium orange maybe. And some more alizarin crimson is our pink color, so we just want to get some pink color onto our roses here, and maybe a little purple. Mostly that light pink color though. And we're going to little bit of purple too. And some more up here. And then we're going to go with some sap green. We want a little bit of a darker green. Sap green, maybe a little bit of burnt umber. Just to get some dark green in there at the bottom of the flowers. Go. Then we can paint around. We can paint around the roses at the top area. There's going to be, this is a window, remember this is a window, so we're seeing out into the grass. So we're painting around the roses a little bit. And we'll use a larger brush to do most of the grass, but we can start to get some grass washes in here just a little bit to help us paint around the roses so that we have some things to work on here. So that's purple and pink. Light, very, very light washes of purple and pink. Up here, more purple than pink. Just a little bit of that light pink color. We're going to try to keep these light and fresh looking, abstract looking. And then maybe there's a yellow flower here in the center of the vase. That could be some yellow ochre. Like so. Okay, we're going to continue on here. More sap green, viridian green, maybe some raw umber mixed in there. Let's just get a little bit of green in here. And we definitely don't want to fill in color in this bouquet here. You want to leave lots of white paper throughout your bouquet of flowers so that you feel like you can see through the flower bouquet. That gives it a feeling of lightness. And does that make sense? So when you're painting your bouquet of flowers, you wouldn't want to cover all of the paper with colors, with washes of paint. You want to leave some white paper so that you feel like you can see through the bouquet. And I think that's important. So this way you don't feel like it's just a big blob of color. You feel like it's sort of a lattice of colors. So I think that'll work good. That'll be a good game plan here. So as I go, I'm thinking, let me see what I can do to make this look better. You know, kind of keep away from the normal pitfalls that maybe someone else might fall into. So, and that's one thing that is a pitfall for watercolor artists, is we think we have to fill everything in with paint instead of leaving some areas where we can leave some light or some mystery in our paintings. You want mystery in your paintings. And that's what we're doing. Hopefully. So we're doing our due diligence here to stick with our game plan, keeping white paper within our bouquet and not painting everything with paint and washes. Here we have some more beautiful light colored roses, some pink light colored roses, and some purple in there too. Then we will absolutely do some greens around that. As we work our greens, which is our grass, through this window, we're looking at grass colors. So we want to make sure we capture that grass feel, like that. And a little bit of maybe some chromium of oxide, which is a dull green, so that can really help us out. A dull green might really kind of play down certain sections, right? A chromium of oxide, that gives you a little bit of a dullness. This way, you know, you don't have too many colors popping everywhere. You have some dull, really muted, soft looking green washes with the chromium of oxide. So I just do that, put that in there. We'll use a larger brush again a little bit later. Right now we're just kind of getting some washes on the paper. Okay. And let's use a little bit of a larger brush. I'm going to go with a number 8 Raphael round brush. I'm going to empty my watercolor, my container of water. It's starting to get a little bit murky. You can kind of see that. Let's get some fresh water. I use an orange juice container. Fresh, clean water. You have to change out your, water every half an hour, probably is good, as you're painting. When you take your breaks, that's a good time to empty out the water. Okay, so now we're going to use a little bit of a larger brush. And let's start going in. Now I can see here I'm getting a lot of colors on the palette. Perfect time for cleaning up the palette. We're going to take a break, actually. We've been painting again about 15 minutes or so. So this is a perfect time taking a break. Before we take the break, let's clean our palette up a little bit. We take some paper towel with some water on there, a damp paper towel, and let's just clean up our palette. We want to avoid having too many color mixes at one time on the palette, because that'll contaminate the other colors we're trying to achieve. For, fresh, clean, beautiful, colorful paintings, we need to continue to clean the palette so that we can continue to put fresh paint out onto the palette, and that will give us better colors, more vibrant, beautiful colors. That'll be more exciting. So let's do that. Okay, so again, take some breaks. I'm taking a break here. You might not need one every 15, 20. You might need one every 45 minutes, whatever you feel comfortable with. Everyone's different again. So I'm very happy that you're here. Again, I always please mention, if you can, subscribe below here on the right-hand side. There's a subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Hey, why not? You'll be, in touch with us, and you'll be following along with this every week. We're creating new videos. It might be flowers this week. Next week, we might be doing boats, a beautiful boat painting, or seascapes, landscapes. Hey, we might even do a beautiful cityscape with some buildings, interesting things like that, or maybe some figure painting, maybe some really interesting portrait painting. We might do a portrait or two here and there. So we're always doing new and interesting things, but the key is it's all watercolor. So if you're looking to learn watercolor on YouTube here, and this is your place to stay right here every week, because we're doing everything watercolor. And even if we might not be doing your preferred subject matter, you can still watch along and learn how we're using the colors, how we're doing our washes, what techniques, methods we're using, how we're accomplishing our drawings and paintings. That's all information that you need to keep learning and having go into your mind. So this way it's kind of really solid in your brain, So your brain is wired to kind of understand how the whole watercolor medium process works. And that's what you learn here if you watch. Every week you tune in, you watch it, even if, like I said, you're not so excited about flowers. Hey, next week might be more excited about boats or, a seascape painting. But again, if you are watching us do these paintings, the techniques, the methods, all the colors, the palette, all the little interesting tidbits of information that we're covering here always, all the time on my channel every week. If you're watching these things, you're going to learn them a lot more quickly than if you're just tuning in when you feel like you like a painting or you don't like a painting. So that's the key here is please stick with us every week and you'll learn so much more if you're following on a regular basis. And that's why I always say if you subscribe down below on the right hand side and you click the notification bell, to click all notifications. That's the top bell on the right hand side. This way you're always getting our watercolor videos. You're learning all the techniques, the methods, all of the things you need to get better at your watercolors. And I know you'll be much happier if you have much more mastery over the watercolor medium. Okay, so let's take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll kind of start wrapping this up. I think we have it quite a bit done already, but we do have some more things we have to finish up. So we'll come back and maybe do one or two more passes at this painting. We're going to have to do the lighter washes in the back here where the grass is when we're looking through the window, and we have to do a few more things here in the foreground. Let's say the foreground of the painting, the tablecloth. We have to do the tablecloth. There's an orange or an apple over here, an orange, a paintbrush. We have to do the tablecloth, a little of the details with the stripes on the tablecloth, a little more grass here in the distance. We have to do the window a little bit more. The wall over here, there's a wall. There's a kitchen scene. So there's a beautiful kitchen scene, and you have your windows, your window panes, and your wall over here. So we have to do a little bit more painting here, but I think we are on a good path to, we're probably about halfway to 75% done here. So let's continue on. Okay, we'll just take a quick break and we'll be right back. Thanks for watching. Okay, we just took a break, everybody. Perfect time when you take a break to come back and just look and kind of evaluate what you're looking at when you're doing your painting. So if you're taking your breaks, you are going to have a benefit because you can kind of just game plan a little bit. So as I kind of come up to my painting here and I'm looking at the painting, I say, all right, what do we have left to do? And then I, think to myself, all right, here we go. We have more grass to do in this picture window. We have a window here that we're looking at. It's a window outside is the backyard of this house. We have the flowers here in the kitchen on the kitchen countertop. So we have to do some grass. We have to paint the window frame of the windows. We have to paint a little bit of a wall. We have to paint the bottom of the backsplash of the countertop over here. And we have to paint the countertop itself with a little bit of tablecloth. So I think that's pretty, and then a few darks, a couple details of darks here and there in the bouquet and on some of the few items we have here, like a olive oil jar. We might have here like a another jar for like some sauces and things. We have a little some condiments and some this might be like some pepper or salt shaker here on the side of the windowsill. We have an orange and a paintbrush, an artist brush. So let's do these things and get them in and see how things progress. Okay, so we're going to take some purple. We're going to get back out some of those colors. Purple up top there. We have fresh clean water in our water bucket. We were using cobalt blue, cerulean blue. We're using some Prussian blue and purple up here, and we had some green, sap green, some viridian green too. So I'm putting out some fresh clean color, and then we were using some burnt umber, burnt sienna, raw umber, raw sienna. So we just get some colors out. Make sure we're kind of some orange. There's some red here, some alizarin crimson. Okay, so now we're going to do the backsplash. And side of window. And we're going to do a little bit of mixture of colors. We don't want to have the same colors. There we go. So we're just going to put some color there, some shadowing. And again, we're going to come over here and do the same thing. Maybe some I'm going to paint around the top of that orange there. Like that. I'm going to try to cover some ground here with some washes. Blues, purples. So I'm just using, again, cobalt blue, purple. That's French ultramarine violet by Winsor Newton. That's my purple that I really use all the time. It's really a beautiful purple. And then I just kind of want to wash that on here. That's the wall in the kitchen here. Then there's maybe some more blue here. And I'm going to just go down there like so. Like so. There we go. This is looking good. And then we have some more purple. Pick up some purple and some brown. And that's the top of the window sash. And the idea is, don't worry, as long as you have the basic shape of the window, it doesn't matter with the colors, as long as it's a cool color, I think. And I'm just going to pick up various colors here for the grass in the background here. So I feel it's a little darker up here on the top, where the grass is in the backyard. So that's that there, like so. Then more grass over here. I blend that right across there. Scrub on some grass colors. And again, large brush. I'm using a much larger brush than I started with doing the flowers. You can see how different I'm using a really large brush here to cover this area here, so I can cover a lot of area and not be too concerned. You wouldn't want to be trying to paint a large area like this here all around the flower bouquet with this brush here, with the smaller number 4 or number 5. This is, or number 4. What did we say that was? This was a number 4 Da Vinci travel brush. So we want to cover this area with a larger brush. This is a number 8 Raphael. There we go. You can do some splashing. That brings a little bit of interest into the painting. Maybe a little raw umber. We still have some more details to do in the flowers, just a little touch. A little bit of light green here. Let's just get a little green in there. Okay, so that's really how we do that wash around the flower bouquet. And you can add in a little of the wash in those areas of white paper you left, but not too much. Okay, how's that looking? How does it look in the YouTube world out there? I hope that looks good for you, and I hope you're painting along with us and having a great time. I'm going to go in and maybe let's get that tree in there. So that's a burnt umber, sap green, raw umber. Let's try to get this tree in there. Oh, I went over the window a little bit. Let's blot that up with some tissue. There we go. So that's the tree. Here's the shadow of the tree. And let's get a darker dark up here just so we kind of feel like we see that tree rising above. Okay. Let's move on down to the lower section here. We have, I'm going to dry off my brush a little bit and get some orange and some, rinse off the brush, dry off the brush a little on a tissue, get the orange, maybe a little bit of raw umber. And I'm going to try to get that orange in there, like that. Let's get some purple and blue for the shadows. Cobalt blue and purple. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so we have our orange over here. You can add a little more orange. Now I think we can go in and start doing some really big shadow shapes. Okay, so we did that there. This is going to be the tablecloth. And this is in shadow over here. So this is in shadow, the table. So this is the edge up here, the top of the table. That's the edge of the table, and this is where the table turns and the tablecloth folds down off the top of the table along this area here. You can blot up a little bit of that paint. You can add in a little bit of some orange and red just to make some variation in colors. We wouldn't want to leave this just blue and purple. Blot a little bit of paint there. Maybe we tie in this a little bit over here, the shadows. There's a shadow over here. And some more purple and cobalt blue over here. That's the wall. So that's dark over here. And there's some red and orange in there too. Let's keep that. So you want to have your fun here. Have your fun with your lots of water and color. You can repaint this again, add some more watercolor up here to kind of fuse the paint down here underneath with up here. That tends to look good if you kind of can go over maybe another little bit of a wash there. Okay, and what else do we have? Some splashes. You have to have some splashes, some mystery shadows and things. And here the same thing, a couple of splashes up there. Okay, then we're going to want to put the stripes in. Let's do the paintbrush here. Let's do a quick artist brush. We're going to use some black paint. That's really going to look interesting. Black and brown. Let's mix black and brown. So ivory black and burnt umber. Maybe we should rinse the brush, and let's use the smaller brush, the number 4 Da Vinci Maestro travel brush. And let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to let that be as it is right now, because it's good sometimes to let your paint set up a little bit. So let it sit there and kind of dry a little bit before you keep going. And then I'll do the hairs of the brush there, and then I'll leave the metal part of the brush for now. I'll let that go. And there's always something else we can do. So here I'm just adding a little more shadow there. And maybe a little more shadow over here, underneath this here, and underneath that there. And then I just put some wash on, and then use a damp brush to kind of just smooth it out a little, feather it in, like that. Okay, so we're seeing the light coming through the window, and we're getting that good effect of light coming at us, and having everything else just sort of, light up. So the outer perimeters of all the flowers and the vase and the subject matter here, the olive oil container and the various things. We have some fruits and vegetables in our paintbrush. All of this is kind of getting lit from back. So we're painting into the light, so to speak. So this is an into the light painting. Light's coming through the window, sunlight, and we're getting that beautiful effect of shadows and light. And let's continue on here. I'm going to go back to my larger brush, my number 8 Raphael round brush, and let's there's a little more shadowing here, purple. Now that I've gotten the artist brush completed, I'd want to just kind of clean up my palette up here like that. This way I can continue to mix my purple up here, and I won't have too much of a problem. Again, keeping the palette clean is important. And so now we're going to use our purple and There's still some more purple here, I see. Some shadowing. That might be the this here. Okay, and then a little bit of red and orange to mix into that purple. Okay, I think we're really almost finishing up here. Let's continue here. We have, maybe we can use our smaller brush again, number 4. Da Vinci Maestro travel brush. Let's do some purple, cerulean blue, maybe a little bit of raw umber there, just so we have a little bit extra warmth, so we have some warm and cool. And then let's start doing our tablecloth, and I'm just doing some and if we go with a little darker color, I think we might be a little better off. And I go across this way. And we're going to go across this way too, like so. And I think we had some of that striping going this way here. And you can have a little mystery striping here and there. You don't have to be so perfect, you know. You can add in some extra striping if you want. So you can say, all right, so there's going to be a little more here. Maybe you have one there. Maybe some more here. So you can do a little extra. And then you can blot up a couple spots here and there. And then we'll do some shadowing under our brush. So I'm doing a shadow underneath our paintbrush here. Simple, just we'll get it done. Okay, let's take a break. We've done a lot. We did a little shadow under our paintbrush there. Let's continue on, but let's take a break first. Let this dry a little bit and we'll come right back, okay? All right, so we're gonna wrap up our painting here. You can see we did a lot of details so far. We've got the main entirety of the painting completed with lots of middle tonal values. You can kind of see that, right? The whole painting is a lot of middle tonal values. And then as we went on, we sort of added in some darker darks here and there. So we have some more, you know, exciting darks in the painting, but it's very sporadic. You're not having tremendous amounts of darks in this painting. So it's mostly a middle tonal value painting, or you might call this like a middle key painting. And then we just add in some really beautiful darks and exciting colors throughout the painting here and there, just to kind of make little bursts of color and excitement throughout. So let's continue on. I think we're pretty much getting there. I'm going to do a quick little bit of Okay, so that's our paintbrush there. And then maybe we'll have some orange. We'll do an orange. Orange end on the brush there, on the tip of the brush. And let's do some more. So we have brush hairs. Okay, so we have our paintbrush there, and then we're going to do a little bit of, we're going to do a touch of dark there. Maybe some burnt sienna there with some raw umber. Okay, so we have some of that darker dark there. And then we have some sap green and French ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, French ultramarine blue, sap green, maybe a little bit of burnt umber. And we'll just do a little flick of our brush here. There's some design on this. And then there's some more design over here too as well. Maybe we change up and do some purple. So we're going to do some kind of just a little bit of details on this one too. Maybe a little bit of red, maybe some red, cadmium red, and okay, so we're kind of just moving our way across the painting, looking to see if we could do any more details over here. This might be some burnt umber, burnt sienna, burnt umber. There's a little bit of writing on this here, so we just try to do a little bit of writing on there, and then there's maybe a little bit of a, like that. And then there's some more darks here. So I see some darks where the stems are of the flowers, so I just want to get a few of those in. And there's some leaf forms here. And a few more greens, like where the bottom of the flowers are. There's some stems and things like that. But I think that's, going too much more is going to, kind of, once you have a fair amount of details in the painting, you don't have to keep doing more. You can kind of just let it be as it is, and it should be fine. And then I'll do some more shadow, just a little bit more shadowing here like this, just to give us that little bit of shadow there for the tree back here in the back of the yard. And That looks pretty good. And then maybe just a few more touches of shadow, purple and blue. Just maybe along here a little bit. This is the edge of the table, so we want that to be a little darker in tonal value here. And then you can even go in and do a little bit more darker spots here and there on that edge of that. Like that. That kind of gives it a more exciting feel there where the light is in the shadow. But I think this is really something you can have a lot of fun with. I hope you'll try this painting. Enjoy the process of just getting those washes on. And again, in the beginning, we just really focused on starting out in the center of the painting with our alla prima method, starting out, getting some of those dark washes of our vase and stems inside the vase and our leaf forms at the top of the vase. And we started working out into our paints out into the colors of the roses, very light, beautiful light alizarin crimson washes for the roses here. So we wanted to sort of, keep these light and fresh looking, not too overworked or too much color. We wanted to leave them kind of light. You can add in a little more color to them if you like. If you find that when you're kind of finishing up the painting and you say, oh, I think those could be a little more colorful, you can add a little more, but I wouldn't go too much. And there was a yellow flower over here in the vase too as well. A golden color there. So you have fun with this, enjoy it completely, and remember it's a lot of fun. Have fun with the process most of all. Don't sweat it too much. You can always do 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 more of the same paintings, and that will just give you more experience with the painting itself. So if you really, you say, oh, this painting is so great, I just enjoy it so much, no problem. Continue to paint it. Try it 3, 4, 5 times. I guarantee you, each time you try this painting and paint this painting over and over, it'll get better and better. It'll get easier and easier every time you do it. And also, don't forget, you can do parts of the painting. You can kind of section off a couple areas, say, let me just do the flower areas. And it's simple to section off areas. You basically just, take a, you could do something like that. So you can section off a part of the painting and say, I just want to do the top of the vase and the flowers and a couple of items on the windowsill, like so. Or you can do the whole thing, or you can just do a portion on the bottom. You can say, I just want to try out the fruit and the watercolor, the fruit and the brush and the tablecloth, but just the rest, leave this, don't worry about this part. Just do this part here. The fruit, orange, apple, orange, paintbrush, tablecloth, and then the shadows, the orange, the purple and blue shadows flowing down across the tablecloth with the white light. That's a really cool effect. Using the white paper, you leave the white paper throughout the whole tablecloth, and then you just do your shadows. So that's a fun exercise you can paint too. You can even pause the video here and work from this. But in any case, I know you'll figure out a way to do it, to have fun with it, to enjoy it. And we'll see you on the next video. Thanks again so much for coming by and painting with me and painting with all of us here. We have many people here. We're all together working on our watercolors. Again, have a great time with it. Have fun, and we'll see you on the next video, okay? See you soon.